Step out of mat, Dub, the
4,
one on the clock.
3, 2,
And bring it in.
1.
For decades, the NFL on television has been the perfect marriage of medium and message.
It looks like it was made for television. The fact that the athlete has a chance to excel in so many different ways. Speed is important. Strength is important. Intelligence is very important. I just think it fits television.
It's played in a relatively finite space. And the ball's big. Ball's big. Very important. So I can follow the whole play, even if I don't know it's a 65 cross power trap.
Every play can be a story. You have a beginning, a middle, it has an ending, and you can cap it off with a replay to punctuate what you want to talk about.
And the ball is thrown to the perfect spot.
Television takes you inside of it, and it allows you to see the one part that made the great run.
It's a fine art to be able to hear the sounds and see the different angles, and I think that's what really catches people.
There just is no way that you can get emotionally involved in an athletic contest if you don't know who the people are.
The game is just built for television because you get such marvelous close-up. You wouldn't think you'd get those kind of close-ups, but you do.
You're not playing it, you're not coaching it, but you're as close as you can be. It doesn't get any better than that.
I can just visualize somebody out in the audience thinking, well, that, and you know, particularly say they sacked the quarterback. I mean, this is what a guy would like to do maybe if he came in on a Monday morning and tell his boss, boom, bang, spike him. I think they can identify with that.
The NFL on television is not just entertainment, it's news. Any great NFL game can be the news story for the ages, linking one generation of fans to another.
It has all the things that a great novel has. It has good guys, it has bad guys, it has the subtext of life and death struggle.
You have courageous performances through adversity.
If you did not like this football game, then you didn't like football. The Chargers gave all they had today, Kellen Winslow being helped off the field.
You have athletes who are at a level beyond comprehension.
It has a ballet section to it. It has a brass section to it with the loud personalities.
When you watch a game, you can feel the emotion, you can feel the hurt, you can feel the pain, but you can see the joy, you can touch it, you can feel it.
With more and more sitcoms, more and more dramas, football is the ultimate last frontier of reality because the guy in the white hat doesn't always get to kiss the girl.
Ernest Miner. Fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my.
And the outcome of the game itself. How many games go to the end? How many games are cliffhangers?
Throwing in the end zone.
If you knew what was going to happen, and it happened, and there's no reason to play it, and no reason to watch it, you don't know what's going to happen. And boom, the kickoff goes, the guy fumbles it, the guy picks it up in the air, someone kicks it, it's out of bounds, the guy comes out of bounds, first guy to touch it, he can't touch it, you know, hats down, flags down. I don't know that there's anything better than that. Spaghetti, not better than that, ain't nothing.
In all their years together, the NFL and television have created electrifying memories. Stand by for replay.
And right in their grasp is one of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Look out, he's got great speed.
99 yards and a half.
Stays in bounds.
Can you believe that?
We'll have all that and more coming up on the NFL Today.
On a cloudy fall Sunday in 1939, the Brooklyn Dodgers hosted the Philadelphia Eagles before a crowd of 13,000 fans. Few, if any, in attendance even noticed the cameras of NBC station W2XBS. Their presence marked the first ever telecast of a professional football game. Only a few New York TV viewers were able to watch at that time, but the NFL considerably expanded its television audience at the end of World War II as consumers stampeded to stores for this essential new home appliance.
Yes, thanks to television, that marvel of modern science, even our unfortunate friends and millions of other people can sit back in the comfort of their own homes and enjoy every thrill of the game, with no struggle for tickets.
But if fans wanted to watch their favorite team, they had to hope that ball club had cut its own broadcasting deal with a regional carrier.
It was a growth that was kind of segmented. Chicago Bears and Chicago Cardinals, they had their own network. George Preston Marshall and the Washington Redskins They had their Southern network. And we tried to have the West Coast network, the Rams.
In 1950, the Rams had an offer from Admiral Television to televise their home games. They worried that there could be a significant drop in the gate, so the arrangement was such that if the gate did drop substantially, Admiral had to reimburse the club. They had a good season, and the gate did drop substantially, and Admiral had to make a significant rebate to the Rams. And as a matter of fact, there were a few executives at Admiral that were sort of told that maybe they ought to find work elsewhere.
After Admiral's deal fizzled, another television manufacturer created its own network with hopes of adding NFL games to its schedule.
And tomorrow, as in the years of yesterday, Dumont will be first, for vision is the Dumont dimension.
1953 was the first year that the National Football League went coast to coast on television for the full season. It was a Dumont television network. Now, they had an O&O station in New York, O&O station in Washington, and then they had a great working arrangement with WGN television in Chicago and another station in Los Angeles, so they put together the network. Our ratings beat all three major networks. Now, that was the first example that National Football League football on television was a great advertising buy for major U.S. corporations.
Dumont carried NFL games until the network itself folded in 1955. But Dumont's departure roughly coincided with the rise in popularity of the New York Giants, a championship football team with marketable star athletes in America's most glamorous city.
Robert Benchley was once quoted as saying anything outside of New York is Bridgeport. And it's very true in sport, because as New York goes, it's a media center, it's a center of activity, networks are headquartered there. And as the Giants go, so does the NFL, more than any other team.
In 1958, the Giants and Baltimore Colts met for the NFL championship in what later became known as the greatest game ever played. A mesmerized Yankee Stadium crowd and millions more in the television audience witnessed a seesaw thriller that still hadn't been decided at the end of regulation time.
10 seconds, 9, 8, here's the kick point. Good. The game is tied, and we're about to have the first sudden-death overtime in the history of pro football.
As the drama unfolded, the size of the TV audience grew even larger. But as the Colts marched closer to the end zone, overzealous stadium fans inadvertently disconnected a cable that literally pulled the plug from the national broadcast.
NBC had to send somebody out to the middle of the field to reestablish contact from downtown Manhattan with Yankee Stadium. He wasn't supposed to be on the field. He feigned inebriation, stumbled out on the field and reset whatever they have to reset. Replugged it in, I guess.
Picture and sound were restored in time for viewers to witness the winning touchdown. And the moment many feel pro football became America's favorite television sport.
United to Amici. Amici powers in. The Colts win it. They're the NFL champions.
I don't know that I fully appreciated the impact it would have in the communication center of the world, New York City, with the corporations, all the big advertising agencies. They're tremendous to do with the Colts' prominence, and the Giants too, even though they lost.
Here's Frank Gifford, all-pro halfback.
Hey, Joe, are you still using that greasy kid stuff on your hair? What else? Vitalis. That's what else.
Sponsors fell in love with pro football and the Giants. Soon the players were endorsing everything from cigarettes to overcoats. Some even landed their own television programs.
I had my own pre-game show, as a matter of fact, that preceded the local telecast with Chris Schenkel.
Just for coming in to see the new 60s. A bottle of My Sin perfume by Lanvin for your wife or girlfriend.
Thank you, Fragrant Frank.
Chris Schenkel, there's no other way you could put it. He was the spokesperson for television, and he became identified with the Giants. He was part of the Giants team.
We sure hope you've enjoyed these exciting highlights of the 1959 New York Giants season. So till next season, this is Chris Schenkel saying so long, and thanks for watching on behalf of the Philip Morris Company.
The NFL's most powerful voice belonged to its new commissioner. Pete Rozelle understood that the game's growth depended upon the fans' ability to see their home team and all the franchises sharing equally in TV rights fees.
At this point, CBS said that perhaps it would pick up just a few of the NFL teams and do only their games. Pete Rozelle knew this would be bad for the league as a whole, so he went to the Hallases and the Maras and the big city guys and said, we should package television and share the revenue. Congress approved the plan, and Rozelle was able to do just that, with CBS getting the initial package.
He understood television. He understood how to expand the packages. I always used to joke with him that it should be part of your franchise agreement with the different teams that 3 times a day, wherever they are, they bow down toward New York City and say, thank you, Pete, thank you, Pete, thank you, Pete.
2 letters, TV. Simple, right? Except these days there's HD TV, ED TV. We could...
Viewers throughout the 1960s, the NFL and the CBS network were one and the same.
Over 20 million living room quarterbacks kept an eager eye on the NFL as the CBS sports cameras brought them close up.
By virtue of the fact that CBS was the first network to do the entire league, I think it's its legacy, and I think over the long years that it had it, it did a very commendable job.
Under the far-sighted leadership of network sports president Bill McPhail, CBS set the early parameters of modern TV coverage. They were the pioneers of the regional telecast, and their talented announcers quickly became household names.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ray Scott.
Ray Scott, more than any other announcer, let the pictures tell you everything. He was just there to fill in a blank or two.
Star looking deep for Dowler.
Scott's lean prose distinctively contrasted with the poet laureate of CBS.
I'm Jack Whitaker, welcoming you.
Jack Whitaker uses the English language better than any sports announcer, to my knowledge, ever has.
The championship for Tittle was his white whale. He chased it for 15 years. And like Captain Ahab, he committed his entire body and soul to its capture.
CBS was also the first network to define the role of the color analyst.
Okay, Bill. We at CBS Sports are starting something new this year. We've announced it previously on our 2 other NFL telecasts so far.
I was an analyst to begin with, and I was supposed to be quiet when the team broke the huddle. And that time belonged to the play-by-play man. The play-by-play man was the boss, and you were just a guest sitting next to him. You described the band and the band show at the halftime, knowing nothing about bands or music.
Eventually, the analysts would be allowed to ignore the halftime bands as CBS coverage became more focused on coaching strategies and player performance. As technology improved, CBS directors such as Tony Verna incorporated these advances into their telecasts.
Tony was very innovative. He was always thinking about how to do something. He just wanted to try something new all the time, make it better, bring it more into your living room. And he was certainly in the forerunner of the instant replay, always experimenting. He was a tremendously inventive person, and he left a lot of good stuff behind, I think.
Verna directed the decade's signature game, the 1967 Ice Bowl Championship. As Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr finalized their goal line strategy in the closing seconds, Verna's crew plotted its coverage while confronting the problems of 15 below zero weather.
And everybody who was involved in the broadcast thought that Starr, because of the slippery conditions, would run some kind of a rollout to Boyd Dowler, who was split out wide to the right. Tony Verna said to Herman Lang, the cameraman in the end zone, put your camera on Boyd Dowler, number 86. And by that time, the cables and the camera had frozen, and he couldn't move it. But the camera was frozen on the backs of Bob Lilly and Jethro Pugh. And Jerry Kramer, and of course, the great block that he threw on Jethro Pugh and cleared Starr's way to the end zone. Other than the freezing conditions, we wouldn't have had that picture.
Coach
Coach, we're going to have a play right now. You can see it on this monitor.
I hope I can see it.
This is slow motion now as Jerry Kramer makes a key block for Bart Starr on this quarterback sneak for the winning touchdown.
Yes.
A super defensive play, but as you will see, Jerry Kramer blows him out of there.
Yeah, that's a fine block, and there's a real good hole.
And the play was replayed enough to where the television viewer really understood what Jerry Kramer had done, not just how the touchdown was scored. It later became the title of Jerry Kramer's book, Instant Replay. But Instant Replay probably helped define the role of television and football as much as anything else had at that point in time.
Of even greater impact was the birth of a rival league whose explosive style would further expand how football was covered by television.
I woke up in the middle of the night, terrified. Someone tried to come in my house. Fortunately, we had an ADT security system.
Mrs. Parker, this is ADT. We're receiving an alarm. Are you all right?
Yes, we're okay.
In 1959, Pete Rozell's league gained some unexpected competition. A group of businessmen eager to get into the pro game decided to create a new professional entity, the American Football League. The AFL owners recognized there were new cities and television markets eager to embrace pro football. And the man who would bring that game to those TV sets was a creative young ABC sports producer named Roone Arledge.
We were able with the AFL because it was brand new, and they were willing to almost let us do anything, to do some things that we probably couldn't have done if we had had the NFL at that time. And so we were trying to get inside the game and have people at home have the real experience, what it was like to be on the field and how hard these guys hit each other and how fast they were and all the rest of it.
Arledge's sound and visual innovations truly gained national attention during the AFL's first sudden death game, the 1962 League Championship.
They said, now down to the field and Jack Buck. And Jack was standing on the field on the 50-yard line with the referee.
It's sudden death now, whoever receives the ball, and we'll start all over again. You understand that? You have your choice, of course, receiving or kicking.
We will kick to the clock.
You're going to kick?
Yes.
To the clock.
Right.
Dallas won the call.
Well, I tell you, over on that Dallas bench, they're going wild, Kurt. They don't know what's going on. Abner Haynes elected to kick off with a club, and I'm sure that's not the unanimous opinion of the bench over there.
Kicking against the wind.
AFL coverage went against the wind and against some standards of existing sports programming. In the early 60s, the NFL didn't broadcast any games in a city when teams played at home, and the upstart league took advantage.
The NFL made a major mistake when they were blacking out the home games, the Giants, the Eagles, the Lions, the Redskins, and leaving Sunday afternoons open sometimes late in the afternoon. And ABC would run this 4 o'clock game in from the AFL. That's the only game you could see. They had an open market. It was like letting a vacuum salesman in the door on a Sunday. And, you know, to let those fellas in, they're pretty good.
But in 1964, trouble loomed in New York when the NFL gained the richest sports contract in broadcast history.
The National Football League signed a deal with CBS, and it brought each NFL team about $900,000 per year. And this was in many ways considered to be kind of the death knell for the AFL because we were making around $125,000 per team. And obviously we couldn't compete if the National Football League was going to have $900,000 a year income. So Sonny Werblin and Joe Foss, who was the commissioner of the AFL, had a series of meetings with Carl Lindemann and others at NBC and negotiated a deal which put each AFL team on near parity with the NFL teams.
NBC continued many of ABC's innovations in their league telecasts, while hiring away such on-air talent as original AFL announcer Charlie Jones.
There were no surprises this week in the AFL as all the favorites won. But most of the wins did not come easily. Joe Namath has not thrown a touchdown pass.
Jones and other broadcasters benefited from NBC's innovative approaches. The production staff rewrote the rules governing pro football coverage while adapting to the AFL's wide-open style.
So many of the advances that took place in the way football was covered for television happened as a result of the American Football League. Those games had a pioneer duo doing them, Kurt Gowdy and Paul Chrisman. And Chrisman was a very, very different analyst than anybody we'd ever heard before. He was willing to be critical. He had an amazing ability to take what had always been given to us as complexity, make it sound like real language. Those were all key things because they were happening at the time that the public was making this huge leap from having had baseball as the American pastime to now making a full-body decision that football was their national game. And I like to think that Gowdy and Chrisman were huge in that regard.
I believe the early days in trying to build something like the American Football League were times that will never again be created. They can't. We were literally inventing how sport should be covered on a daily basis.
But was anybody really watching the AFL? NBC unintentionally found out audiences were after committing the biggest blunder in the history of televised sports.